Everybody, my name is Catherine Pearson, and this is my presentation on my code of ethics and hot button behavior management. This is the code of ethics that I came up with. I will create a nurturing and balanced classroom environment that respects all students' cultures, languages, and family backgrounds. I will build positive relationships with families and communicate openly so they feel informed, included, and involved in decisions about their child's learning and experiences at school. I will use appropriate and equitable assessment systems to understand students' learning and developmental needs, and I will provide each student with the individualized support they need to thrive and achieve academic and emotional success. And these are the rights of a child I have identified. I have the right to be safe at school. I have the right to play and have fun. I have the right to share my ideas. I have the right to be myself and be treated kindly. I have the right to be cared for. I have the right to learn new things. And I have the right to privacy for my body. And I really wanted to make sure that these rights honor the whole child and ensure that all aspects of their well being are being honored. I wanted to make sure the rights I identify protect not only their physical safety, but their emotional safety. Um, Making sure they have a right to just experience joy and play and feel that they can be their authentic selves while at school. I wanted to make sure they um, know that they are empowered to express their ideas and to learn freely and openly and just receive care from nurturing adults who just want them to thrive. These are the hot button behaviors I have identified. They are taking others' belongings, throwing materials, and talking back. And the emotions that I identify when this behavior happens in the classroom. When students are taking others' belongings, it makes me just feel disappointed. Um, and then below are the steps that I take to remedy that. For throwing materials, I feel frustrated. And talking back, I often feel disrespected, but although this is the word I used on my sheet, I did want to point out that I do know that children are not trying to be disrespectful, that they are just testing boundaries and trying to maybe seek control or just really lack the language skills to be able to respond appropriately. So while it does make me feel disrespected, I don't hold it against the child. I know that that is not their intent. And my relationship with the child, how that um, continues to stay positive throughout a challenging behavior. And here I have identified how each behavior affects my relationship with these students and how I my relationship is with families after communicating with them about their child's behavior and communicating with the child themselves. Pretty much across the board, I mentioned how families, it really kind of depends on the family and how they're going to respond. I've had to talk to families about um, all of these things, all of these behaviors, and it's kind of hit and miss with the families that I work with. Some respond really well and want to be, in partnership with you and to work together to um, just make sure that doesn't happen again. Um, and then other families who get really defensive. So this is how I kind of outlined how my relationship with families are affected after challenging behaviors below. This is my behavior management plan for before the behavior. The first one I'm focusing on is taking others' belongings. So a prevention strategy could be to just have multiple items of high demand and high interest materials, and teaching the difference between personal toys and shared materials. Of course, obviously making sure you go over all the expectations about how things should be, how you should keep your personal belongings in the classroom. Modeling language and phrases to continuously teach how to have positive interactions with others and visual cues, and really just to plan ahead can really help prevent challenging behaviors. And also just always responding with guidance and acknowledging students' feelings, describing to them what you observed in this case, it would be taking others' belongings and really just helping facilitating a solution for solving problems. So students kind of know ahead of time that you are going to take this proactive approach to helping resolve conflict. Um, it could prevent some behaviors from happening. My interactions and self care strategies would be to intervene right away, especially if I'm seeing somebody taking another child's things without permission. Just using simple language and just talking about um, how we care for others and showing kindness and how taking others can hurt other people's feelings. Then moving to just acknowledge both the student's feelings, both the one who desires the item they don't have and the other who feels sad that their toy was taken, and really just helping modeling empathy and understanding on both sides. And a self care strategy would be just to really pause and breathe and just always try to respond with love and empathy, and to also just seek assistance from other teachers or mentors if this is a persistent strategy. I'm sorry, persistent behavior. And then just some more self-care reflection and resources on after the behavior, when this one in particular is taking others' belongings. Really just identifying how you are feeling, considering how what the student may have been trying to communicate, and if there was maybe a different strategy that would have worked better. Really just continuing to reflect on the why. If was the environment an issue, um, was there a transition that happened before? Really just trying to figure out what happened immediately before, and why that behavior happened. And then also just considering your response, tone and body language, and just making sure that it was appropriate for the interaction. And then a resource would be just to review some of the articles from the NAEYC on positive guidance, SEL, and other developmentally appropriate teaching methods. For throwing materials, some prevention strategies. I didn't mention this for the last one, but everything should really just focus on positive guidance and prevention. So, explicitly stating the rules and expectations at the beginning of the year so students know what is expected of them, and really just planning ahead, especially with materials that, I mean, a kid could throw anything in the classroom, but if you um, know ahead of time that, items might be used inappropriately, just spending extra time to make sure that the students know how to use them. Also, just providing brain breaks and letting students have opportunities to get their wiggles out and move their bodies before moving into centers or other activities could help prevent throwing. And then visual posters and cues for how materials should be handled before allowing students to move to a new center. Just make sure to discuss expectations and rules. This can hopefully prevent some throwing of materials. And then just my interactions and some self-care strategies for this, just redirection to what the child can throw and where, using simple language, a lot of modeling, teaching them games if they enjoy throwing things, then showing them games that would allow for that, and just again reinforcing the proper use of the material. Again, restating the rule, using logical consequences, and removing the material that was thrown, and then redirecting to an appropriate zone or activity would be what I do next. And then, of course, using positive reinforcement and guidance. Once the student is re-engaged in a new activity, just providing praise for them for doing the behavior that we are seeking to see as teachers, just gives them some positive praise, and hopefully they'll continue that going forward. And then some self care reflection and resources, just breathing, again, identifying how I'm feeling, considering what the student may have been feeling, also possibly seeking the advice of colleagues and mentors, reviewing the classroom rules and expectations, making sure just the environment is set up for success. Also, just using role play, modeling to just again show students how to handle materials. And then last, my prevention strategy for talking back. I just providing students with choice. Talking back, I feel like is often a form of wanting control. So just giving kids, my interactions would be to intervene calmly, avoid or acting emotionally, just state what the expectation was, or maybe in this case, state how they should have been phrasing their words and have the student kind of repeat them back to you. So you are modeling to them the appropriate language. And then using this moment as just a powerful interaction to be present and give students attention and really connect and acknowledge their feelings. Clearly, they're very dysregulated if they are speaking back and talking back. So, helping to extend that learning by guiding positive behavior is a good way to prevent challenging behavior. And then some self care, reflection, and resources for talking back. Again, what is the child trying to consider, communicate, reteaching, and remodeling appropriate ways to express feelings, and then just continuing to focus on building a positive relationship with that child by maybe engaging in an activity with them that they are interested in or asking them questions so they know that you are interested. And just because they had a moment of a challenging behavior does not mean that you don't still value them. This is how my behavior plan aligns with my code of ethics and child rights. And overall, my outlook on behavior, I have recognized that really all behavior is communication, and that I can respond by looking deeper to understand what the child is trying to communicate and tell me. Oftentimes, challenging behavior or defiance can also just mean that a child is fearful, or there are some other underlying emotions behind the behavior. So, really just seeking to understand and understand on a deeper level. Also, that young children cannot yet stop their impulses, so respond calmly when challenging behaviors arise, and that families play a central role in a child's development, and that their home routines, their cultural traditions, and ways of communicating really influence how children learn and experience the world. And so that is important to keep in mind as you are observing the behaviors of students in your class. And this is the letter I have written to myself and also other teachers. These are all of the references I use throughout this presentation. Thank you so much for watching.